in interesting times on tonight's headlines. Viral videos of a junior high school student bullying fellow students at the Ateneo de Manila University sent shockwaves on social media all the way to Malacanang as netizens and government officials condemned the violence and called on the school to take action. The U.S. government begins a shutdown after Congress adjourned without passing a federal spending bill or addressing President Trump's demand for money to build a border wall. 2 people are arrested in connection with the criminal use of drones at London Gatwick Airport. Ottawa and Washington step up pressure on Beijing, calling for the immediate release of 2 Canadians detained in apparent retaliation for the arrest in Vancouver of a Chinese tech executive on a U.S. warrant. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to the program and now to the news. Malacanang wants Ateneo de Manila University to take action on bullying incidents within its school premises that went viral in social media. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo stressed that bullying has no place in school, saying such acts are against the law.
You know, I watched that.
Oh.
I was bothered by what I saw. I think they should investigate first why there was such a one-sided fight. We should investigate these. The school should investigate the incidents and do something about it.
A video of the incident showing a student challenging his schoolmate to a fight in the toilet went viral online. Joaquin Montes, a student of Ateneo de Manila University, has been one of the most discussed topics in the country for bullying his fellow student inside the school. Montes has been also involved in different bullying incidents wherein some of his videos have been uploaded on YouTube and even Facebook. The student, a minor and a gold medalist in Taekwondo competition in 2016, was caught in at least 3 videos using his martial arts skills against fellow students who ended up either bloodied or on their knees. Now, Ateneo de Manila University Office of the President wrote on their statement that the school will not condone such behavior. Meanwhile, an MMA Philippine gym in a post online in Filipino said that its 14-year-old Muay Thai fighter would like to challenge the Taekwondo Jin from Ateneo because he felt sorry for his victims and could not stand to watch a martial artist using his skills to hurt others. Quoting its young fighter, the gym said that martial arts should be used only for defense. One post that is being shared a lot now is a plea from Muay Thai artist Joshua Aaron III, who wished to challenge the Ateneo student. Joshua posted a status where photos and screenshots of the said video were included since the video is getting deleted by Facebook. He captioned the photos by asking Joaquin to please bully him. The post itself had gone viral but was deleted immediately on the advice of the Muay Thai Association of the Philippines, or MAP, which frowned on this challenge. It has come to our attention that some Muay Thai athletes, coaches, officials, and gyms affiliated with the Muay Thai Association of the Philippines have used the bullying incident in a school in Quezon City to promote the sport in a negative light by challenging the student to a match. The post itself has gone viral and shared by those who are supposed to uphold the tenets and values of Muay Thai: respect, tradition, excellence, fair play, and honor. We at MAP do not condone any form of violence and bullying, be it verbal, physical, mental, or emotional. To other news now, Ako Bicol Representative Rodel Batocabe was gunned down while giving Christmas gifts to senior citizens and persons with disabilities in Albay on Saturday. His police escort, SPO1 Orlando Diaz, was also shot dead. A radio report said Batocabe, also the vice chair of the House of Committees on Dangerous Drugs, on Natural Resources, and on Good Government and Public Accountability, was about to board his vehicle after attending a Christmas giving event in Barangay Burgos when the attack took place at 3 p.m. The suspects quickly fled the scene. He and his bodyguard were declared dead on arrival at the hospital. During his time at the House of Representatives, Batocabe co-authored the anti-bullying law of 2013. Meanwhile, the investigation is ongoing. In other news, 2 people were arrested in connection with the criminal use of drones at London Gatwick Airport, according to police on Saturday, after 3 days of disruption affected tens of thousands of passengers during the pre-holiday getaway. Take a look. Now, drones were first sighted hovering around Britain's second busiest air hub on Wednesday, grinding the runway to a standstill and causing chaos for more than 120,000 people. Police urged passengers and the public to remain vigilant around the airport south of London and report any further sightings. The dangers posed by drones include the possibility of a device smashing into a passenger plane or being sucked up into an engine where its highly flammable lithium battery could cause a catastrophe.
Well, there will be some lessons learned from this, particularly around the speed with which we can put our response and our measures into place. But as I say, we're reviewing that with our partner agencies, and we're actually reviewing that longer term, plugged into government.
The U.S. government began a shutdown early Saturday after Congress adjourned without passing a federal spending bill or addressing President Trump's demand for money to build a border wall. Operations for several key agencies ceased at 12:01 a.m. Saturday, local time, despite last-ditch talks that continued on Capitol Hill between White House officials and congressional leaders in both parties. Trump has dug in on his demand for $5 billion for construction of a wall on the U.S. border with Mexico. Democrats are staunchly opposed, and the absence of an elusive deal means federal funds for dozens of agencies lapsed when the clock struck midnight on Friday, U.S. time.
And it's really up to the Democrats, totally up to the Democrats as to whether or not we have a shutdown. It's possible that we'll have a shutdown. I would say the chances are probably very good because I don't think Democrats care so much about maybe this issue, but this is a very big issue. It's an issue of crime. It's an issue of safety. It's an issue of least importantly, dollars. Spend $285 billion a year on illegal immigration. We have to finally do it. The wall will pay for itself on a monthly basis. I mean, literally every month it pays for itself. So we're talking about small amounts of money. Think of it. We approved, and we got good Democrat support. Military last year, $700 billion. Recently, $716 billion for the military. And here we're talking about $5 billion. So it's a tiny fraction, but unfortunately, they've devoted their lives to making sure it doesn't happen. And that wasn't for what should happen, that was for political reasons. So we are going to be working very hard to get something passed in the Senate. There's a very good chance it won't get passed. It's up to the Democrats. So it's really the Democrat shutdown, because we've done our thing. When Nancy Pelosi said you'll never get the votes in the House, we got them, and we got them by a big margin, 217 to 185. So now it's up to the Democrats as to whether or not we have a shutdown tonight. I hope we don't, but we're totally prepared for a very long shutdown. And this is our only chance that we'll ever have, in our opinion, because of the world and the way it breaks out, to get great border security. Ronald Reagan tried many years ago, got a note from a member of his family, many years ago tried to get a a wall. And he fought for a long time during his entire term. He was never able to get a wall. And I consider him to be a great president. He knew what he was doing. We are going to, one way or the other, we're going to get a wall, we're going to get a barrier, we're going to get anything you want to name it. You can name it anything you want. But we cannot let what's been going on in this country over the last 10 years, we just can't let it happen.
The shutdown is the third time this year, and it remained unclear how long it would last. Trump expressed hope late Friday night that it will not last long, after earlier saying he was ready for just that. The optics are bad, as 800,000 federal employees will be either furloughed or forced to work without pay in the run-up to the holiday. Now, according to Democrats in the House and Senate, a shutdown would impact about 800,000 of the 2.1 million federal employees in the U.S. Some 380,000 federal workers would be furloughed, but on unpaid leave, including 52,000, or put on unpaid leave, including 52,000 employees of the Internal Revenue Service. Some 80% of the employees of the National Park Service would also be sent home, along with 96% of NASA workers and 86% of the Commerce Department. Another 420,000 workers considered essential personnel would work without pay, including 41,000 Fed law enforcement and correctional officers and others such as aviation and postal workers. But the prospect of a large portion of government workers going without paychecks was not enough to spur lawmakers or the president to action.
But there is only one way we will have a Trump shutdown: if President Trump clings to his position for an unnecessary, ineffective, taxpayer-funded border wall that he promised Mexico would pay for.
So let's not end this year the way we began it, with another shutdown over the issue of illegal immigration. Remember this back in January? All because the Democrats are unwilling to support common sense measures to address it. And if we continue to throw up our hands and tolerate a status quo that is allowing too many drugs and dangerous criminals to travel freely into our land, then this federal government is not doing its duty.
The House of Representatives adjourned just before 7 p.m. Friday local time, with no moves taken to avert a shutdown, and the Senate closed up shop an hour later. Both are due back in session at noon Saturday U.S. time. During the last shutdown, the Statue of Liberty was closed for 2 days before the state of New York decided to pony up the money necessary to keep it open. The Smithsonian in Washington said that in the event of a shutdown, it had enough in reserve to keep its museums open through January 1. And there have been a number of government shutdowns in recent years, including one which lasted 3 days under Trump in January. An October 2013 shutdown lasted 16 days, while one in 1995 to 96 lasted a record 21 days. Meanwhile, a political analyst said President Donald Trump enjoys the drama of confrontation, but that nothing will happen of consequence if there is a U.S. government shutdown. Take a look.
Short-term consequences of a shutdown over a holiday period are inconvenience, but since it would be the third shutdown of 2018, people are sadly getting used to this, and they just see it as more Washington games. So nothing really will happen of consequence. Well, for a man who lies constantly, he's also consistent and tries to uphold his promises, as paradoxical as that sounds. He promised a wall, so he wants to keep his promise. He also enjoys the drama of confrontation. Well, one thing it does for him is it distracts the nation from the other things that he doesn't want them to talk about or think about, such as the investigations, such as the health care bill, such as Syria, such as the stock market. Things are going bad all around Donald Trump, so it's only 9 of the cabinet agencies that will shut down. However, that includes Homeland Security. So people who are carrying out the Trump orders on the U.S.-Mexico border won't get paid. People who inspect luggage at America's airports, the transportation TSA, they won't get paid.
All right, thousands of people are going to the terminals for the long holiday weekend, and we have a live report coming in from Erlo Bringas, who's now at the Araneta bus terminal. Erlo, can you give us an update in your area?
Alright, Alma, as of tonight, many of our kababayan passengers continue to flag in many terminals here in Quezon City, especially here in Araneta Center Bus Terminal as long holiday break draws near. As of this morning, or as of morning, passengers early flags in many terminals in Quezon City, specifically along EDSA. Here in Araneta Center Bus Station, the percentage of the passengers came here as of yesterday increased according to Araneta Bus Terminal Management. Management expected this number of passengers today as the long vacation draws near and many of the employees finished their work in their offices. Management added that they expected more percentage of passengers tonight, tomorrow, and until Sundays. Authorities like Interagency Council on Traffic strictly implements rules and regulations in many buses that there is no complete papers. Authorities also still reminding or continue to remind the passengers to limit their baggages and do not bring prohibited items such as flammable materials and sharp objects. Passengers are also advised to keep accompanied and watch on their children if they are bringing anyone with them, as well as their belongings. PNP still continues to strictly implement security measures to all passengers in the bus terminal to ensure their safety and security while here in bus terminals. PNP also doubled the numbers of PNP personnel deploying here in many places, like in Araneta bus terminal stations, to anticipate the criminals who wants to do unnecessary bad things to our kababayan passengers who go through their provinces today and until tomorrow for their long holiday break or long holiday break. Reporting here at Araneta Center Bus Terminal Station, Quezon City. For Eagle News, I'm Erlo Bringas. I'm 1 with 25.
Thank you, Erlo. Okay, now back to the U.S. The Supreme Court there dealt President Trump's attempt to crack down on illegal immigration a blow Friday when it rejected a White House bid to implement his asylum ban on Central Americans. The High Court declined to overturn a block placed by the San Francisco Federal Appeals Court on Trump's executive order to automatically reject asylum requests from migrants crossing the U.S. border from Mexico. The court made no comment in its ruling but noted that 3 of the 9 justices were in favor of lifting the lower court stay and letting Trump enforce the ban while lawsuits over it go ahead. The 3 backing the president were Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Trump appointee Brett Kavanaugh. On November 9, Trump signed the order which aimed at halting the flow of migrants mainly from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador crossing into the U.S. without authorization. Many of them request asylum due to pervasive violence and poverty in their home countries. Trump's order was immediately challenged by rights groups who said it violated international standards and U.S. law on asylum. A lower court placed a stay on enactment, which was then supported by the appeals court. The loss Friday in the Supreme Court might not make much difference to migrants, while they can still turn themselves in and request asylum. After crossing the border on Thursday, the Trump administration announced that all illegal immigrants will be pushed back into Mexico while their requests are being processed. Ottawa and Washington on Friday stepped up pressure on Beijing, calling for the immediate release of 2 Canadians detained in apparent retaliation for the arrest in Vancouver of a top Chinese tech executive on a U.S. warrant. The European Union also said it was backing Canada in the detentions dispute in which Ottawa has been caught up in the rivalry between Beijing and Washington. U.S. State Department spokesman Robert Palladino also called for the 2 to be freed, while European Union High Representative for Foreign Affairs Federica Mogherini company said through a spokesperson the EU supports the efforts of the Canadian government. China detained former Canadian diplomat Michael Kovrig and China-based business consultant Michael Spavor on December 10, following Canada's arrest of Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou while she was changing planes in Vancouver on December 1. Meng was later released on bail pending the outcome of an extradition hearing. The U.S., which is locked in a trade war with Beijing, has accused her of violating sanctions on Iran.
What are you doing?
Meanwhile, the arrest of a third Canadian in China has heightened anxiety even in an expatriate community accustomed to some level of fear and uncertainty. Beijing on Thursday confirmed it arrested Canadian Sarah McIver for working illegally in the country, following the detention of 2 other Canadians on national security grounds. While Canadian authorities said the latest detention appears to be a routine visa case, it has nonetheless exacerbated concerns among Canadian expatriates in China, fearful that they too might be detained over a legal technicality.
I mean, I've always been worried due to my experience in China. Like, I've seen this bullying behavior before, and I think most of Canadians that are here are living in fear at some level, right? A fear of losing what they have here, fear of getting arrested, fear of retribution. So it's a constant fear, and so there's this general unease that we're going to bear the consequences of this bullying from both sides. Right? It's us versus authoritarian, right? Like Xi Jinping, like Trump and Putin. Those are the ones that we ought to fight against, because they undermine our whole civilization, I think.
In other news, members of the Church of Christ reached out to the city of Edmonton, donating 100 boxes of food to the city. Thomas I. Likeness reports.
A lot of people take a trip to the grocery store for granted, but for thousands of people in the Alberta capital of Edmonton, buying food is something they sometimes cannot afford. That's where the Edmonton Food Bank comes in. Food Bank volunteer Braden Valliere says a wide range of people often show up on their doorstep.
Right, it's just life, costs money, right? And sometimes you lose your job, sometimes your car breaks down and you need to feed your kids and you have to decide, what do I do? Fix the car, feed the kids, and it's just basic people. They need it, right, Ernie?
Just ordinary people.
Yeah, everyday people. It's not what you'd think. Some people think it's like people just take advantage of it. Really, it's not.
Also contacting the food bank are a number of organizations such as the Iglesia Ni Cristo, or Church of Christ. The church donated more than 100 boxes of food, which Valliere says shows the commitment the church has to the communities it is in.
Oh yeah, thank you. Like, people like this are, they make the world go around, they help each other, they actually care about other people, and without the help of folks like this, the food bank couldn't exist, and wouldn't be able to feed as many people as they do on a monthly basis. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Father Glendo Baitan is the Assistant District Minister of Canada 6, which includes the Edmonton region. He says it's important to help the poor.
This is in line with the teaching of our Almighty God, written in Proverbs 3:27, that we do good things to our fellow men.
Brother Glendo says members of the church are always ready to help out those facing tough times.
Many brethren, most of them are officers, as you can see from my background, they are always united. I would say ready and willing to unite with the church administration, not only in this kind of activity. In fact, many of our activities with the aim of not only strengthening the faith of those who are members of the church, but also reaching out to those who are not members of the church, helping them with their needs in this life, and most especially, given the chance, also with their needs when it comes to their spiritual lives.
The Edmonton Food Bank serves about 20,000 people per month. Today's donation by the Church of Christ will provide about 3,000 meals for people who would otherwise go hungry. Reporting from Edmonton, Thomas I. Likens, Eagle News. I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Thomas. And before we go on a break, let's head on over to Tokyo and let's see the anime characters at the Bandai Character Street. Here's Tyra Lu.
Hi! Behind me today is the famous producer of Japanese anime, the company Bandai. For the locals, this place is just considered as ordinary or just a normal place, but not for tourists.
Passing by this street, you will see a lot of travelers taking their photos with these all-time famous characters displayed just outside the building along Edo Street in Kumagata, Taitoku, Tokyo. The company changes the characters displayed from time to time, so what you might have seen a few years back may not be the same with what are on display now.
From Doraemon.
Doraemon, the blue robotic cat that travels back in time from the 22nd century to help his friend Nobita, has been one of the kids' favorites here.
Whoever doesn't know this famous anime character must have lived under the rock.
Son Goku is the main protagonist character in the anime series Dragon Ball Z. He has been displayed here since 2017. This is the Bandai's head office, a giant toy manufacturer that aims to foster creativity and dreams among kids and non-kids alike.
Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Tyra Pilyilu for Eagle News International, and I am one with 25.
Thank you, Tyra. Eagle News International. We'll be right back.
Visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. That you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
For business news, this is Cesar Vallejos. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the country's largest business network, is optimistic the economy will accelerate next year, but argued it can only be accomplished if challenges in doing business and labor reforms are addressed head-on. In a statement on Thursday, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry said it agrees with the 6.7% growth forecasts of international lenders. The country will remain resilient in the face of trade uncertainties expected to escalate next year, it added. PCCI expects the economy to surge in 2019. Our country continues to enjoy strong macroeconomic fundamentals, enabling us to weather external headwinds, the statement read. Our economic outlook for 2019 is still strong, backed by robust consumer spending and stronger government expenditures. We agree with the projections of the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank that see a growth rate of 6.7% for 2019, despite rising global uncertainty, it added. It primarily wants authorities to, as soon as possible, issue the implementing rules and regulations of the Ease of Doing Business law. The PCCI also called for the elimination of the port congestion problem. It also insisted that the government settle once and for all the issue of jobs contractualization to create certainty in the labor market, especially with the promise of employment generation under the Duterte administration's infrastructure program. The country's leading car manufacturer is expecting to rebound its sales next year by 10% on the back of stronger consumer demand in time for the midterm polls. Toyota Motor Philippines Corporation is bullish it will recover next year after a dismal sales performance this year. The leading local vehicle producer is looking at a minimum of 10% sales growth in 2019. This could increase to as high as 15%. TMP Vice President for Corporate Affairs Romel Gutierrez said the industry's top dog is forecasting a 10% growth next year due to favorable economic factors. For one, he claimed consumers are slowly adjusting to the price regime under the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion law. He attributed this to the recovering market for automobile, which suffered a general decline this year due to various economic factors such as the imposition of excise tax on vehicles under the train law. On top of market recovery, Gutierrez argued there will be more consumers in need of vehicles next year, and the midterm polls in May is expected to drive up demand for cars. The Philippines' dollar earnings registered a surplus in November this year, owing largely to strong economic conditions and a stronger local currency against the US dollar. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas on Wednesday reported the country's balance of payments, or BOP, position for November, indicating an overall surplus of $847 million for the month. The BOP is the summary of the country's dollar transactions with the rest of the world. A surplus in this economic indicator means the country earned more dollars than what it spent during the particular period, while a deficit means the economy lost more dollars than what it earned. The country's BOP only registered 2 months of surpluses in the first 11 months of 2018, the other one being in August at $1.27 billion. The November BOP surplus is an improvement from the previous month's deficit of $458 million and a reversal of the $44 million deficit also seen in November last year. The central bank, in a statement released on Wednesday, said the BOP surplus was mainly brought about by the BSP's foreign exchange operations and its income from investments abroad during the month. Notably, the local currency gained considerable strength in November to average at 52.8 to a dollar during the month, from the previous month's average value of 54 to a dollar. The BSP attributed the positive development during the month to decreasing global oil prices, the BSP's decision to raise its policy rate, and progress on the rice tariffication bill, all of which are expected to temper inflation. It was in November when inflation first started to decelerate to 6% from its 6.7% peak in the previous month. Japanese prosecutors rearrested former Nissan boss Carlos Ghosn over fresh allegations Friday, apparently dashing his hopes of being home for the holidays in the latest twist to a roller coaster saga. He had appeared set for release Friday after a court surprisingly rejected the prosecutor's demand to extend his detention for further questioning. But instead of being freed on bail, Ghosn was arrested Friday over separate allegations of financial wrongdoing. Prosecutors alleged Ghosn shifted a private investment loss of over $16 million onto Nissan in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. The Japanese securities watchdog apparently knew about the transaction at the time and questioned its legality. Sources say Ghosn has denied carrying it out. Prosecutors also suspect he had Nissan's subsidiary transfer nearly $15 million into the account of a person who helped out in the scheme. Ghosn has been locked up in a Tokyo detention center along with his close aide Greg Kelly for almost a month after the two were arrested. They have since been indicted for allegedly conspiring to underreport Ghosn's income by tens of millions of dollars over a 5-year period starting in 2010. Both have reportedly denied any wrongdoing. Tens of thousands of taxi drivers in South Korea went on a nationwide strike Thursday, snarling up traffic in Seoul in the latest protest at a planned Uber-like ride-sharing service. An estimated 50,000 taxi drivers wearing headbands, chanting slogans and waving banners rallied outside the parliament, calling for the carpooling app to be banned. AFP photographers at the scene said. Drivers say the service being introduced by KakaoTalk, the country's largest mobile chat app, will threaten their livelihood. A 57-year-old taxi driver committed suicide by setting himself on fire in a solo protest outside Parliament in Seoul last week, forcing KakaoTalk to delay their launch of the service initially set for this week. Traffic jams were reported on some highways leading to the capital. Police have mobilized 9,000 riot police to maintain order. Wall Street suffered a third straight drought Friday, ending its worst week since late 2008 at the start of the global financial crisis, in a sell-off prompted by worries over trade wars and a possible government shutdown. The Dow Jones Industrial Average finished with a loss of 1.8%, or more than 400 points at 22,445.37, taking losses for the week to nearly 7%. The broad-based SP 500 slumped 2.1% to 2,416.58, while the tech-rich Nasdaq Composite Index lead 3% to close at 6,332.99. The declines pushed the Nasdaq into a bear market, meaning a retreat of 20% from its peak. The losses came as Washington teetered towards a likely government shutdown as U.S. President Donald Trump dug in on threats to close the government if congressional Democrats continue to refuse his demand for funds to build a wall on the border of Mexico. Thousands of U.S. government employees could be furloughed right before the end-year holidays without a paycheck if Trump and congressional Democrats fail to strike a deal by midnight. At least 5,000 demonstrators took to the streets of the Hungarian capital Budapest late Friday as right-wing nationalist Prime Minister Viktor Orban dismissed a wave of protests against a new labor reform as hysterical shouting. Protesters marched from outside Parliament to the presidential palace on the other side of the Danube in temperatures close to freezing. Many shouted angry slogans against the government, but no clashes were reported with police. The current series of protests was sparked on December 12 when MPs passed a measure dubbed the Slave Law by opponents, which hikes the amount of overtime that employers can demand from 250 to 400 hours per year. Friday evening's demonstration is expected to be the last before the holidays, but unions and opposition parties announced when they would hold a new protest on January 5 to keep up the momentum of the movement into the new year. That's it for Business News. This is Cesar Vallejos and I'm One with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stick with us.
Tungkulin ng MTRCV ang mag-provide na appropriate ratings sa lahat ng TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan.
Higpitan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCV, rated responsable.
Events happen around us all the time. In our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel.
And I'm Kenneth. And we're your new hosts for The Break Room.
So please watch us every Monday at 7:30 to 8 in the evening. We are One with 25.
Know the latest news and information here and abroad. In Aguila, Balita, track the latest happenings in the provinces in Aguila, Provincia. Be aware of important events in Asia, in ASEAN in focus, and be updated in the biggest news around the world in Eagle News International. Tune into Mata ng Agila and get the day's headlines and news that are sharp, accurate, and objective. Only here at Net 25.
Welcome back. NBA superstar LeBron James offered a scathing take on NFL team owners on the latest episode of his HBO show, The Shop, saying the Gridiron League is run by, quote, old white men with a slave mentality. Now, James was chatting with his business partner, Maverick Carter, Los Angeles Rams star Todd Gurley, and actor-rapper Ice Cube about NFL player protests over social injustice. Gurley noted it was a touchy subject, but James, who hasn't been shy to take on political and even social issues, criticized NFL owners for wanting to control players. He went on to praise NBA Commissioner Adam Silver for his support of players who use their platform to speak out on social issues. In the NFL, they got a bunch of old white men owning teams, and they got that slave mentality, James said. Silver, in contrast, doesn't mind us having a real feeling and be able to express that, James said. It doesn't even matter if Adam agrees with what we are saying. He at least wants to hear us out, and as long as we are doing it in a very educational, non-violent way, then he's absolutely okay with it. Now, the NFL hasn't been able to shake the controversy that erupted after former San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick began kneeling during the pre-game national anthem to protest social and racial injustice. Kaepernick, who remains without a job in the league, alleged he has been blacklisted over his protests. His former teammate Eric Reid also took legal action against the NFL, claiming he was being frozen out over his support for the kneeling protests. Although Reid is now back in the league playing for the Carolina Panthers, he has suggested he is still being targeted for his views, questioning the number of drug tests he's been subjected to. Reid said he'd been selected for testing 7 times in 11 games this season. And here's EBC's Christine Era taking us to the exciting game between Toronto and the Golden State. Take a look.
Tonight was more than just Toronto versus Golden State. It was more than just the first place team in the league versus the reigning NBA champions. Tonight offered a taste of what some have said could be the matchup in this year's finals. With the Raptors all but ready to go with the full lineup, they controlled much of the game, but the three-time champs show why they were the three-time champs. Clawing their way back, forcing OT with a tying shot with less than 5 seconds left in the game. A lot of hype and excitement came prior to this game. And when it was all said and done, the game not only lived up to that hype, but surpassed it. With the game being tied up in the final moments, Kevin Durant scored a game-high 51 points, but the Raptors prevailed to a 131-128 win. Fans can only imagine what kind of series this will be like if they meet in the finals. From the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Canada, I'm Christine Era, 1 with 25.
In other news, CBC United Kingdom Junior Bureau correspondent Jordan Season shows us how a community in Heathrow gives back to the men and women of the police force. Jordan?
Welcome to our Police Appreciation Day. As we know, policemen work hard to keep our homes and communities safe, even at times they risk their lives. That's why members of the Church of Christ here in Heathrow, United Kingdom, are holding this event to recognise them for their great efforts.
You're different, but that's okay, because we follow God's word always. Hold on to your faith, and in the end, you'll receive the salvation. It's true, you're different, but that's okay, because we follow God's word always. Hold on to
Children participating in this event prepared Christian music songs for the police officers to show their gratitude for keeping us safe.
So don't let the world influence you. You must influence the world.
Awards and medals were also given to the police officers, showing appreciation on this event set up by the Ignition Christian Church of Christ. They even let us try their policing machines.
Get back to go. Send all you do.
I'm PC Charlie Lacey.
That's it. So you're looking in camera. That's it.
Why did you decide to join?
I joined the police because I want to help people. That's it really. It's about helping people, about giving back to my community, locking up the bad guys.
What's your favourite part of the job?
Can you please say what's your favourite part of being a police officer?
My favourite part is I don't chase bad people anymore. Like my sergeant says, I send the younger ones out chasing them. But it's locking up the bad guys and making sure that everyone's happy and healthy. You know, it's giving back and looking after people. You know, we should always look after each other, and being a police officer is a big part of that.
What did you like about today's event?
Me, I like the singing. That was really good. And then I like the food. It's all about the food, trying different cultures' food. It's really good experience.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? I can't remember. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Please.
What did you like about today's event?
Well, it's fantastic to meet you all, and you've been such wonderful hosts. Good stuff. Right.
Reporting from the Police Appreciation Day here in Heathrow, United Kingdom, I am Jordan Season and I am 1 for 25.
Thank you, Jordan. Let's now go to Japan. EBC film Guerrero premiered there and drew praise from different viewers from the country. Tyra Lu, Aimi Komiwa, and Jane Kinjo reports.
Happy, excited, and full of anticipation, these are the expressions you will see from this group of people lining up for a movie screening. A Filipino film that has already traveled to various countries worldwide has made its way in the land of the rising sun, Guerrero. The movie from the director of Walang Take 2 has premiered in Japan. Various Filipinos, Japanese, as well as other nationalities here in the country were gathered at 4 various areas all over Japan for the movie premiere. Tokyo, Hamamatsu, Tochigi, and Okinawa. Packed with humorous lines, heart-wrenching scenes, and even an unpredictable and hanging ending, the movie has cultivated various positive reactions from viewers with never any moment of boredom.
Bakit hindi niyo po kasama asawa niyo? Wala pa akong asawa. Bakit hindi niyo po kasama boyfriend niyo?
Again.
Busy siya eh.
Joke lang, wala pa akong boyfriend.
Di ba sabi niyo gutom na kayo?
And when we asked them what they can say about the film they've seen,
very, very interesting.
Mesurokata rin.
Maganda.
Sobrang ganda po ng movie.
とても感動しました。
Sobrang saya po.
思いっきり泣いて思いっきり泣ける映画でとても良かったです。 Maganda po. Maganda. Napakasaya.
Masaya, nakakaiyak, nakakatuwa. Ang lakas ng tawa ko.
Now, let's check out what happened in Hamamatsu. Here's Aimi Komiwa.
Hi, I am Aimi Komiwa here in Hamamatsu Fukushi Koryu Center in Hamamatsu City, where the movie screening of Guerrero is happening. A great number of movie viewers all over Shizuoka Prefecture came together with their friends to witness the movie Guerrero. Right here in Hamamatsu City, Shizuoka. This is Aimi Komiwa for Eagle News. Back to you there in Tokyo, Tyra.
Let's fly over to Okinawa in the southern part of Japan and let's see what's happening in the movie premiere of Guerrero. Here's Mary Jane Kinjo.
Good evening, everyone. This is Jane Kindro. We are here at the Okinawa Sangyo Koryu Center for the movie screening of the EBC films Guerrero. It's drizzling outside and it's a little chilly, but you can feel the warm reception of the people who supporting this event.
And what makes the movie great is the values and lessons it teaches the viewers. And Guerrero never runs out of these.
Madami pong mapupulot na aral.
Ano man dumating mga pagsubok sa buhay, lalo tayong manalig sa Panginoong Diyos.
Through Guerrero, a movie from Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, Filipino movie writer and director Carlo J. Cuevas portrays the lives, ups and downs of a typical Filipino boxer that gives utmost inspiration and happiness to both the Japanese and Filipinos in Japan who are always occupied with work,
family, and other stress-causing concerns.
Tunay na nagbigay ng inspirasyon sa mga nakasaksi, sa mga nakapanood. Hindi lamang po mga Pilipino, ang totoo kahit ang mga naritong Hapones. Ito po ay nagbigay sa kanila ng kasiyahan kahit po sa ilang oras na kahit na sa kanilang pamumuhay dito, alam naman po natin meron din kalungkutan at talagang sila ay pagod sa mga paghahanap buhay. Sa buhay na ito, ang lalong mahalaga ay ang pagtitiwala sa Diyos. Ano man ang dumating na suliranin, bumagsak man, babangon. Pero ang pagbangon natin ay nasa tulong at awa ng ating Panginoon Diyos.
Panoorin niyo po itong Guerrero kasi napakaganda pong movie na to. Nakaka-inspire po sa buhay natin.
Yung mga hindi pa po nakakapanood, manood po kayo. Sobrang ganda po. Andun na po lahat yung comedy, tapos yung pagbanding, pagmamahal ng magkapatid, tsaka sa family po. Kaya manood po kayo. Sobrang ganda po.
Tatagal mo lang. Niloloko mo ba ako? Ha? Yeah! Wow!
Ganun daw talaga. Ang mga bida, palaging talo sa umpisa. Akala ko ba mahal mo ako? Kapatid mo ako eh.
Bakit ka iyak ng iyak? Ano ba nakakaiyak?
Hirap lang kasi ng assignment namin, yung mga planeta.
Ano nga sabi ko sa'yo, tuturuan kita?
Hindi ko alam. Turo ko sa akin eh.
Reporting from Tokyo, Japan, this is Tyranel Pililu for Eagle News International, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Tyran. With that, we end tonight's program. I'm Alma Angeles, always 1 with 25. Good night.
Bago matapos ang taong 2018, sabay-sabay tayong magbabalik tanaw sa mga pangyayaring nagpakaba. Nagbigay pag-asa. At naghatid ng saya.
Nasunog ito. Butit na lang na punta ako doon sa derma na she's very good. Kasi yung ginamit ko kasi, yung sa asawa ko, cream lang yan. 1, sabunan mo. Sige. 2, mahapli na. 3, gano'n. 4, 5. Tapos mayroon pa yung maliit. Tingin ko, bakit nangitim ako lalo?
Sa loob ng isang taong pagmamatiyag ng mata ng agila. Pilipinas 2018, ang year-end report ng Eagle News Service. Ihahatid ng pinagbuklod na puwersa ng Net25, eaglenews.ph, eaglenewslive.com at ng Radyo Agila. Pilipinas 2018. Abangan!
Ang susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.